Hey, badass business owners, welcome back to the show. If you have a small business that serves your local community, then you are in the right place. Today, we're going to talk about pricing. And I've got a question for you. When was the last time you checked your prices? Now, here's something that you need to do a couple times a year to really just make sure that you are in alignment. And I'll guarantee you think about your pricing a lot more through the course of the year because we're always asking ourselves, am I priced right? Should I tweak this? Should I change this? Should I do this? You know, this competitor went and did this, or I think I should be here. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you do sit down at least twice a year and do an in-depth analysis and really look at your pricing. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. What I want to do is I want to talk about some of the reasons and what you should be looking for when you're doing this price audit, if you will. Now, the first thing we want to do is ask ourselves, are we competitive? And I've talked about this and I recently did a video on this. When it comes to being competitive, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. One, this is not a race to the bottom. When I say be competitive, I don't mean that you need to be the cheapest person out there. Because if you're the cheapest person out there, the only way that you can really make money is for you to have high volume. You know, when you see these big box retailers have the cheapest stuff and you go, oh my gosh, how can they even sell it for that? It's because they're banking on volume, that they're going to sell so much of it that they're going to be able to make the profit that they need. Well, for most of you in your types of business, that's not going to work. So what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, where are my competitors at and what do they get for what it is that they pay? This way you can say, okay, when it comes to quality, for what I do, for what I add to it, some people strip out almost everything. So that's how they can give the cheapest price, where you might be offering other things as part of the entire package. So really do a deep dive into your pricing when it comes to being competitive and making sure you're not doing something crazy like you are $50, $60, $100 more than your competitors. I was actually looking at a vendor the other day and I got quoted something and my first thought was, oh my gosh, what the hell? Why is this price so high? And then I went to their competitors and it was like $100 to $150 higher than the others. And I was like, what? I knew they had been raising their prices and I know that they're a better person at what it is that they do. And I'm trying not to give too much away at this moment, but I will tell you that I was absolutely shocked that they had priced themselves so far out. When I dived in, it turned out that it made sense how they got to the price, but the problem was the communication of why it was that price was horrible. And if I had not known them personally, I would have said that, oh my gosh, I would have walked and I would have went to one of these other competitors. So it's really important that tied to being, when you're looking at your pricing, that you're crystal clear on what value you're giving for that price. Make sure people know that, yes, I might be priced a little bit higher, but this is what you get. Sometimes your reputation might be ahead, that you're getting the highest quality and everything else, but don't assume that people that have never used your business before will pick up the phone and ask, or that they might even already know. Remember, people will pay for value, so they just have to know what that value is that they're getting. So when you do your deep dive on your pricing and you're looking at it from a competitive standpoint, make sure you're looking at all of that. Now, another thing that you need to do when you are looking at your pricing is to ask yourself this question: do you offer too much? And that might seem weird since we're doing pricing, but sometimes when we are pricing stuff, because we start getting a funky pricing strategy going because we offer way too much stuff and we try to squeeze in something because we had a couple customers ask for something and we give it a price because it's not quite this, but it's not quite that. And next thing you know, we've got some funky pricing going on. This is going to be a weird analogy, but you see it at fast food places all the time where they try to put in a special size. And then you ever look at it and you're like, but if I get a 6-piece, it's actually cheaper for me to get 2 6-pieces than it is to get 1 10-piece, which means from a food standpoint, you're giving me 2 extra for less money. This makes 0 sense. And actually what's funny is our local McDonald's, you get a 10-piece nugget, for example. I think it was like $5.99 because this one really stood out to me on the menu. It was like $5.99 for a 10-piece, but $7.99 for a 20-piece. So for $2 more, you get double. I'm all about giving somebody something to try to get them to go up in price. But the $5.99 was actually a really good price for the 10 when you compare it to There's six. It just gets confusing. So just look at your pricing and ask yourself, do you have a clear good, better, best? Because honestly, that's what you need is a good, better, best. And people should be able to see what they get from a value standpoint, why they should go from the good one to the better one to the best one. When we start filling in gaps for everything else, it just gets so confusing for our customers. When I work for Home Depot, one of the things that we used to joke around about is how we had every shovel known to man. And we started adding more shovels. It was doing good for us because we could do different types of shovels are used for different types of things. But then it got out of control. And you could literally look in an 8-foot section, and an 8-foot section became a 16-foot section of shovels. And then it just became not only good, better, best, but then there was this handle versus that handle, and this blade versus that blade, and this versus... It became too much. And then what happens is you get paralysis analysis. Customers can't buy anything because they're overwhelmed by all the options that they have. For example, if you go into a restaurant, think about what you feel when you look at a menu that has a smaller menu versus one that has tons of stuff on it. You can't make up your mind. You're sitting there because you're looking page after page after page at stuff that looks really good, especially if they use pictures, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't decide what it is that I want. Whereas if you go to a restaurant that has a much shorter menu, it's much quicker for you to be able to make a decision. There's fast food places like In-N-Out that are very small, short. Here's the 10 things we offer you, unless you know the secret menu. But these are the 10 things we offer you versus going to another restaurant or another fast food place that has way too much. So make sure that when you're looking at your pricing strategy, you simplify and you make sure you stick to that good, better, best, and that your prices make alignment to each other, that they make sense as you tier up of what you need to do. Now, another thing you can look at is, can you raise your prices? You might be in a season where you've had the same prices for a really long time. And now you're wondering, hey, I wonder if I can raise my prices. Well, by you looking at your competitors and looking at your good, better, best and everything else, you might find that you can bump your prices. Now, when I say bump your prices, I'm not saying that you take something from $7 to $14 or from $75 up to $100. Believe it or not, when you look at your volume, sometimes you can up something 50 cents, $1, if it's a service-based business, $5 here, all that stuff adds up. And in most cases, unless your other costs have gone up, believe it or not, you can bump your prices up and people aren't going to really feel it that much. So it's a great way to add more profit to your bottom line, which we're going to talk about in a second when it comes to knowing your numbers, because I'm huge on that, but we're going to cover that last. Now, another thing that you're going to be doing when you're looking at bumping your prices is exactly the other part, is you need to be looking at your costs. Every time that you have a massive price increase in any of your costs of goods, it's really important you sit down and crunch those numbers to see if they make sense. And the reason you need to do it in conjunction with these other things that we're talking about is because you can be the first one to make that move, but just know that you might be the first one to take that hit. For example, if you use lumber, this over the last 6 months have had a serious roller coaster ride. Well, when that lumber took off, there were people that had to raise some of their pricing because the cost of lumber went up. And what you have to look at is this a temporary bump that you're going to do in your pricing because lumber is famous for going through the roof and then coming back down? Or was this something you were just going to ride out? Another thing you need to look at as you price is follow your cost of goods and ask yourself, is this a permanent change? Is this a temporary change? Should I change my prices temporarily? Should I not? Is there another way that I can cover for that? There's all kinds of things that you need to do. So as you're looking at your pricing, make sure that you are looking at, when you're bumping your prices, are you doing it just for pure profit to try to squeeze a little bit more, or are you having to do it because of the cost of goods of what you're doing? One of the things I've been kind of weaving in and out of here has to do with, I'm a huge proponent of you knowing your business numbers. And I talk about all the time how you need to know the number one calculation, which is, say it with me, sales minus cost of goods minus expenses equals profits. There's all kinds of stuff out there you need to memorize or know about your numbers, but really the only thing you need to memorize and know by heart is sales minus cost of goods minus expenses equals profit, because you use that in everything in your business, including pricing, because every time you price something, you have to make sure that you're accounting for the fact that you're going to sell it. So it starts off in that sales bucket, and by the end of everything, it becomes that profit. And so many people only take in consideration what their product costs are, and therefore later on they'll deal with the expenses, and that's when they find out they weren't profitable at all. So they're mistaken that they're making profit because they're like, oh, I'm going to sell this for $100. It cost me $50. I'm going to make $50. Well, not if $50 goes out on your expenses, you're not. So it's really important that we always know these numbers, and we get that from our profit and loss, right? Our profit and loss will tell us what percentage tends to go out for cost of goods, what percentage tends to go out for expenses, and what our profit tends to be. So when you're setting your prices, it's always good to sit down and just apply that to every single one of your prices and do an audit of your prices, if you will. And what you can do is, you don't have to use the general percentage from your profit and loss when it comes to your cost of goods, because if you're looking at each individual SKU, item, however you want to call it, service that you offer, you can do it and break it down and just write out sales, put at the top of the paper, sales minus cost of goods minus expenses equals profit. And now you can sit down and you can say, hey, I sell this for $75 and I know that my costs come to $33.75. And I know that when I go to my P&L, I know my expenses typically run 25%. So I can calculate out 25% of that $75, and that's $18.75. Yes, I've got a calculator here, which means that at the end of the day, my potential profit is the $75 minus the $33.75 that I know my costs are going to be, minus that part I know I need to set aside for my expenses. And I'm going to come up with a $22.50 profit. So now you can go back to your P&L and you can say, oh, look, my profit margin tends to be around 25%. When I go back to this product that I just calculated out, that $22.50, when I divide it by the 75, turns out it's 30%. So this one's priced really well, because if my average is 25% and this product gets me 30%, this one's sitting good. But if I had done the calculation, and if my average is normally 25 and this one comes out to 15, I know I've got bells and whistles going off that I need to really look at this product and find out, do I really need to continue to carry it? Is it profitable for me to carry it? Is it part of a project starter that I have to have it necessary evil, if you will? Or is this something that I really need to change this price because it's pulling down what my profit is in my business? So this is why it's really important you know your numbers, because if you keep in mind that sales minus cost of goods minus expenses equals profit, you can take each one of the items that you carry and you can now figure that out as you go through. Hopefully that's making some sense. Listen, folks, I don't want to drag this one out too long because I really want you to do a price audit in your business. And I want you to go look at all the different things, what your competitors are doing, the value that you serve, can you charge more? Can you not? Do you have to because your costs are off? Does your pricing make sense when someone goes from good, better, best? Do you offer way too much? But at the end of the day, it all comes down to those numbers. So you need to write down those numbers and make sure that you've looked at sales minus cost of goods minus expenses equals profit and see if that works for you. And since it's the middle of the year, it's a fantastic time for you to sit there and break down your pricing and make sure you do it at least twice a year. When was the last time you did it? Do it now. You know you need to do it. And by the way, if you are listening to this podcast on your favorite podcast app, don't forget to go to the YouTube channel where I am breaking them down visually now for people, as well on knowing your business numbers, as well as some other fun stuff, getting the business going, all that fun things. So once again, head on over to YouTube and check out Badass Business Owners and watch us over there as well. All right, with that, I am out of here. I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye for now. Hey, badass business owner, before you go, as you know, I'm a huge believer in you knowing your business numbers. After all, it isn't about how much you sell, it's about what you keep. And the best way to grow your profits is to start diving in and understanding those business numbers. To help you on this journey, I have created the Know Your Business Numbers course. We will walk through how to read your profit and loss statement. You'll learn the key calculations that'll help ensure that you're making a healthy profit on all of your products or services, plus a ton of other good stuff that'll help you learn how to use those business numbers to create even more sales and profits. Just check out the link below in the show notes or visit knowyourbusinessnumberscourse.com. So if you're ready to increase those profits, it's time you start diving into your business numbers.